Hi everyone, it's Denise, and I've been wanting to come on here and just explain to some of you how I became involved with the Kowalski case. You know, I first became involved like 5 years ago, and when I post pictures of Jerome and different things through the years, so many of you have followed along, tagged on, and became prayer warriors for the Kowalskis. And there's a lot of you I don't know. You know, I've never seen your names or anything, but you make comments and you put the prayer hands up and you pray. And we all know how prayers work. So I wanted to just explain really as fast as I could without making this too long how I became involved with them. So in 2017, I had to go in front of Judge Brennan for my divorce. I was already divorced, but there was an issue, and so I went to her courtroom. It was February 14th, 2017, and I brought my good friend Jeannie Reimars with me, and for moral support, because I had to face the ex. And I was the first one called up. Brennan came out, and she was just awful. She had no idea what she was talking about with my case. Of course, I didn't have a lawyer. My ex did. And she just came out with guns barreling at me. And again, didn't even know any of the issues or the facts with my case. And my case was just really hardly nothing. It was about money. And she just humiliated me. She humiliated me in front of everybody. In fact, what she came out with, even my ex and his lawyer were like, their mouths dropped. I mean, everybody in the courtroom, was like, what? I mean, because what she said was completely just ridiculous to the solution of what this was about. She wanted me to kick me out of my own house. Like, make her get out in 30 days. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so, of course, anyway, I settled up with my ex and left the court. And before that, so this was February, so in December we started hearing rumors about her getting a divorce and about some things going on with her. And I remember when I was standing there in front of her, I thought, you have no right to sit there and judge me, you pathetic judge, because what you're saying is ridiculous, and look what's going on in your life, not too good. So after that court day, I started doing some videos out in front of the courthouse and exposing her, because I immediately thought, you messed with the wrong bitch. Because now I'm going to do some videos about you and what's going on with you and your divorce. And so that's how I became involved. And I was working with this other person in the community at the time, and then the main point of this is what I want to say is the real heroes in this, the real heroes, it is Donald Root, who is Teresa Brennan's ex-husband, and the ever popular, great Tom Kaiser, the lawyer, who's had a reputation for a long, long time, been a lawyer in our community up in Howell for years and years, and those are the two that are the heroes in this and helped get Jerome to where he is right now. I had nothing to do with getting him out of jail, and really nobody else did that's talking about any of this. I mean, yeah, we joined in on the exposure, of the corruptness in Livingston County with the prosecutors and the judge, and so that's how I became involved. So I started doing videos, and then asked Tom Kaiser if he would do a video with me, and went up and filmed a video with him. And he turned me on to the Crime Watch Daily piece that had been done. It's a national TV show, and they had done a piece on this whole thing with Brennan. And the whole time, before even, I saw that piece, I had a feeling, gut feelings. Gut feelings are always right. I had a gut feeling that Jerome was innocent, okay? And back in 2008, I sort of remember hearing a little bit about the murders, but never paid much attention because my mother had died the month before these murders happened, and so I was in another whole thing, and I wasn't following along with court cases back then. You know, most people don't. Most people don't know about the court stuff unless they're going to court. So, do an interview with Tom Kaiser, and he tells me, I think he was the one that told me about the Crime Watch Daily thing, and I watched that, and then Jerome's son Jared was on that. They had interviewed him. They went to his home and interviewed him about this case, and I could, after watching that, then I knew for sure in my body and my gut and my brain and my heart that Jerome was innocent. So I had already had a video business going before this. I would do videos for businesses, shoot commercials for them, just community things, film, and so I asked for Jared's number, and he called me right away. Now, at that point, I had found out that he had messaged me on, because he saw my piece, you know, in front of Brennan's court and with Tom Kaiser, and he had messaged me on, I think it was Instagram, or, you know, one of those that I didn't hardly use, so I never saw it. So anyway, I got a hold of him. He called me right away. He started telling me all the stuff about his case. And I said, well, the only thing I know how to do, or what to do, is let me film a video of you telling your story. You know, videos are very powerful. I mean, we all know that. Look at some of the powerful videos that have come out on a bunch of people. And so we got together, and I filmed his story, and we did, I don't know, 5 or 6 videos. You can see them all on my YouTube channel. Jared tells the whole story. And my YouTube channel is What's Happening Now, W-A-T-T-S, Happening Now, all one word. Go to YouTube, search What's Happening Now, and you can watch all Jared's video. He explains everything that went down with this whole botched up trial. So now I'm meeting Jared and some of his family friends that have been involved, because now they're since 2008 is when Jerome was arrested and put in jail. And when I hooked up with Jared, the son, the whole case had been like silent for about 3 years. Nobody was talking about it. Nothing was being said about it. And most people didn't know that Jerome Kowalski got railroaded by Bill Vaillancourt, Teresa Brennan, Pamela Moss, and also even Jared's first lawyer wasn't on top of stuff either. I mean, it was just like one botched thing after another for this whole case. And the only thing that they ever had on Jerome was a false confession. Now, he was arrested and grilled by Furlong and another state policeman. I believe his name was Paulson. And when you can see this interrogation on the Crime Watch Daily, and you know, he's hammering them, and of course Jerome had fallen off the wagon about a month before these murders of his brother and wife, and Jerome's mother had died, and Jerome's brother Richard and him had settled up. They weren't like the best of friends anymore, but they weren't enemies or anything. And Jerome lived a long ways away from his brother Richard and his wife Brenda in Howell, and got a knock on his door, and the police are there telling him that his brother and sister-in-law were murdered in their home, cold-blooded murdered, shot, both of them more than 2, 3, 4 times. And did he have anything to do with it? Did he have a gun? Where was he, and all this stuff? And of course Jerome was, mortified and shocked. So were his sons. And then the next thing you know, they're having Jerome come in, and they do the interrogation with, there was no lawyer present, and it was hours and hours and hours. Jerome was coming off alcohol and was just a mess, and just kept badgering Jerome and saying he did it, and asking Jerome details, which Jerome didn't have the details. He'd had a dream. He'd had some dreams and was getting that confused, and just finally Furlong said, well, it was your sons, wasn't it? We got your sons in the other room. It was your sons that did it, right? Right, Jerome? And Jerome knew his sons didn't kill their uncle. He knew he didn't kill him either. And so he finally just said, okay, yeah, I did it. And he just was tired, and he was just over it. And should he have said that? No. Should he have had a lawyer there? Yes. You know, lots of mistakes. So there's one mistake for anybody. Don't ever get interrogated without a lawyer in the room. And so he signed this false confession, and he said he knew that he didn't do it, so there was no way they could pin it on him. There was no weapon ever found. Jerome did have a gun. He gave it to them. It wasn't the gun that killed them. There was no motive for Jerome to kill his brother. Now, his brother and wife, they had money, but Jerome and his sons didn't get any money. And really all you got to do is follow the money. So who got the money? Well, you can figure it out by watching some of this stuff. And there was no blood, there was no DNA found, and when the coroner, when they first, found the bodies, whatever, they had put down on the death certificate that it was 3 days. The time of death was 3 days. Well, who writes that? And so during the trial, so now he's arrested and put in jail for 5 years before his trial even starts. Now, here's where Tom Kaiser and Donald Root come in, the real heroes of this whole story. Is Donald Root and Teresa Brennan had been married for about 20 years. He probably had figured out his wife was having an affair with Sean Furlong. There was lots of rumors going around, and you know how everybody talks. The lawyers stick together, the judges stick together, the cops stick together, they all talk. And there was rumors going around at the time that Furlong and Brennan were having an affair. And somehow she got this murder trial. She'd never had a murder trial, and she'd been up for election. Her and Bill Vaillancourt were up for election. And so Tom Kaiser had submitted a letter stating that, hey, I think you should recuse yourself from this trial. There's rumors going around that you and Furlong are not just friends, you're way more than friends. And of course, they both denied it, and the trial started. So now the trial gets going, and Brennan just didn't let boxes and boxes and boxes of information in. She was just horrible. She was just clueless to a lot of stuff. And really, when I researched this whole thing and heard all the stuff, she didn't really care. All she cared about is getting reelected and making her name for herself. Same with Vaillancourt. And they had Pam Moss in there, who used to work for Oakland County, I believe, and was fired from there. Maybe, I don't know. They put her in as the prosecutor. And then I was told by people that had been to trials before that the trial was just a big joke, the way it was run, and that Pamela Moss was just so unprofessional, and just, so the whole thing just got completely messed up, and Jerome ended up, it was a jury trial, he ended up getting found guilty, which I don't understand how the jury found him guilty when there was no evidence of any kind. And so they had a specialist come in who pinpointed the time of death between 2:30 and 4:30, I believe it was, on that date that he was murdered. So it was 2:30 and 4:30 in the morning when they were shot and killed. And it was a really, Spitz, I think was his name, and he was a world-renowned forensic specialist on that kind of thing. He had done the O.J. case and John Bonet and a bunch of others, and Brennan made a mockery out of him too. She rushed him through his testimony, and because she had to get a plane to Florida, and so also Jerome worked at the Selfridge Air Force Base as a guard, and he was at work at the time of death besides. So how can anybody find this guy guilty? There's nothing on him except a false confession. okay? And so they didn't even look for anybody else because they had the confession, okay? And so that's what happened. Teresa got put on trial. And Donald Root let out the phone records because they had their phones through his company at the time, and he let out all of the phone records to prove that Furlong and her were speaking way before the trial, during the trial, and after the trial, okay? And he used to go up to her. They had a cottage up north. He used to go up there. There was parties at her house. I mean, a lot of these people and people that worked for her at the time, they all knew this. Nobody stood up, of course, because some of them were afraid to lose their jobs. Just nobody stood up for the truth. So I've always been a truth seeker, and I just stand up. I just like to stand up for justice. So I just was drawn to this case because of, I just couldn't imagine that if my own father was put in prison for something he didn't do. And Jared has been just an angel through this whole thing. I mean, he has other friends that helped him in the beginning, collecting evidence, all kinds of evidence that was never allowed in to the first trial. And, you know, we all know who was involved in the murders, and believe me, it wasn't Jerome Kowalski. Okay, so I'm sure the person or persons that did do the murders are pretty nervous now, and you know their time's coming. You know, karma. So that's what happened, and that's how I got involved. And so Jared and I did a whole bunch of videos, and again, you can go watch them on my YouTube channel, and told his story. I invited him out into the community, and I introduced him to a bunch of people. In the next couple years, I introduced him to Sheriff Murphy and Joe Hune and Lana Theis and some lawyers, and Bob, the ex-sheriff, Bob Bazat, and just Jared started telling their stories. I mean, you know, people don't know. I mean, who knows everybody's story? And so more and more people now are seeing that, you know, maybe this guy's innocent. And so when it took Teresa a couple years to get through all her crap, you know, all the JTC did their trial, and anyway, she got found guilty of perjury. Of course, they made a deal, and she got taken off the bench, was paid her full salary the whole year or so that she was off the bench. She got her full salary and benefits, and then was found guilty. So where's the justice there? She got sent to jail for 6 months, and the Attorney General up there, Nessel, only allowed 6 months. You know, when you look up what she was charged with the perjury, you know, it's up to, I think it's up to 10 or 15 years people can get for something like that. And then coming from a judge, and then, you know, through this whole thing, which I've been involved with now for the last 5 years, I've heard so many stories. So many people have tagged on and told their stories about how Brennan screwed them over and ruined their lives, and, you know, took kids away from parents. And, you know, Brennan was never a parent. I don't even know how she could judge court cases with kids. I mean, you know, she just didn't get it. She was just a spoiled little rich girl, and the ego went to her head, which happens to a lot of people in these small townships. I mean, really, our government starts with townships, supervisors, and so she got found guilty, and so then there was nothing left for Valiant Court to do except to give Jerome now a fair trial, which Tom Kaiser always said, I don't care if Jerome's guilty or not, and I don't know if he's guilty or not, but I do know he didn't get a fair trial, and he deserves a fair trial. So that was always the goal, to give him a fair trial. And so finally, Valiant Court agrees to give him a fair trial, and so they grant him a fair trial. Now, in the meantime, I remember Jared saying to me, if you met my dad, you would know he couldn't kill anybody. And so, because I had taken my friend Jeannie with me in the beginning to the court case, and that's when I got started on this whole thing, she started printing out, so now all these articles are coming out with the Brennan case and just all kinds of stuff. So she started printing everything off and sending it to Jerome to read, because of course Jerome's in prison in Lapeer and can't see everything. And then Jeannie and I went and started visiting him. I had to meet him, and we went to the prison, you know, signed up, had to go through all the rigmarole to get in, and Jared was so right. I mean, as soon as I met him, I just loved him. I knew that he couldn't even kill a fly. I mean, he's just that kind of guy. Just a really nice guy. And so we became friends, and then boom, he gets granted the new trial. They rushed him out of Lapeer. They wouldn't even let him pack up his stuff. They're like, Jerome, you got a new trial. So they rushed him out of there like he was going to go to court the next morning. Well, that was 3 years ago. He spent 3 years in Livingston County waiting for his fair trial. 3 years. Now, in county jail, it's way worse than in prison. I mean, he couldn't go outside. He couldn't take his classes that he was taking. I mean, Jerome was mentoring young kids that were coming in to the prison. He was doing Bible classes. He was like the model prisoner. I don't know how he did it. You know, just think about the food that they serve those people in prisons and jail. It should be cleaned up for everybody. I mean, anyway, so now he's in the county jail, and so then I started going and visiting him up there until the big flu hit, and then we couldn't go in, so I started doing Zoom calls with him. You know, you have to pay, and Jeannie was paying to, you know, so Jerome could call her all the time. So they became really good friends, and he would call her, and so he met a couple of new friends, which helped him. You know, we were always encouraging him and just having conversations with him as often as we could, and just telling him about, you know, I would take his picture and I would post it every time, and that's what you guys would see. And you guys would all get on the prayer list, and he was so grateful, and he always said, tell him everybody thank you, because, you know, prayers do work. And so that is how I became involved into the Kowalski case. I had nothing to do with him getting a new trial. Nothing. And neither did anybody else, except for Donald Root, her ex-husband, Brennan's ex-husband, and Tom Kaiser. They're the true heroes in this. So if you see them out in public, thank them. Thank them for what they did, because if it wasn't for them, Jerome would still be rotting away in a prison. You know, he never did get a fair trial. And, you know, you know, Valiant Court and Moss and Brennan, they know it. They got to know it by now, if they didn't know it then, but I don't know how they didn't know it then. It's like, you know, but they didn't care. He's an innocent man. So thank God he's now at his son's house in house arrest, which is way better than jail arrest, and he's just elated. I'm sure he still can't believe it. None of us still can believe it, that he's finally out of there. He's got the tethers on. He can't go anywhere except to court and into the doctor's office, but he gets to sleep in a bed. He gets to smell and hug his family. You know, his son Jared got married while he was incarcerated and had 2 kids. Of course, Jared went to the prison and brought the kids and everything, but, you know, I mean, at least they got to meet him and stuff, but it's not the same. And some of the other people behind the scenes that were there from the beginning, friends of the family, when this all happened, everybody's just so happy and so glad that he's home. It's just unreal. And it's just great. So, you know, now I can't wait for them to schedule the trial, because once all the evidence is presented, which so much of it wasn't, there's just no way they're going to find him guilty, because he didn't do it. And I can't wait for the persons that did do it to be arrested. I'm sure they're shaking in their boots. So that's it. That's my story into the Kowalski, you know, whole thing. I'm honored to know them. I'm honored to be in their lives. I love them. I love Jerome. I gotten really close to Jared. I didn't really see the other son, Jerry, that much. He lives quite far away, but I just can't imagine how they feel now, and it's just wonderful. So thank you all for sharing our posts and praying all the time for Jerome, and just, you know, just keep up the prayers, please, because, you know, he does still have a trial to go through, which, you know, and they have offered him a deal, like, say you did it and we'll let you out. Like, hell no. Like, he's not stupid. Like, hell no. He lost almost 14 years of his life locked up for something he didn't do. And what about his brother and sister-in-law? You know, what about vindication or, you know, justice for them? You know, just think how his brother would feel in knowing that his, you know, Richard was the one that was murdered. Just think how he would feel knowing that his own brother was imprisoned for something, for the murders when they know that he didn't do it. He didn't do it. So that's my story. I just wanted to tell everybody because I know, like I said, probably some people were wondering, you know, are you related to him, or, you know, why are you doing this? You know, and I just did it because I just felt it was the right thing to do. I just wanted to help Jared tell his story. So again, the real heroes are Donald Root, Teresa Brennan's ex-husband, and Tom Kaiser. They're the real heroes in this. You know, a lot of other people have come forward since this all started too, and told their stories, and tagged on and confronted some of the corrupt people up there in Livingston County, and that's great because everybody needs to stand up. I mean, we all need to stand up now for justice. We, you know, we the people. Those people work for us. We don't, you know, we pay their salary, and they need to be doing the right thing. So those people are great. Keep standing up for justice and exposing what you know. But all of them and me, we had nothing to do with the new trial. You know, it was, again, it was Donald Root and Tom Kaiser that really got this new trial. So they're the real heroes. So thanks for watching. Love and peace. Keep praying for the world. You know, this is going to be a really big year for a lot of great things, and that's how you have to think about it. So thanks.